Hey, you're watching Umbrella TV. I'm Jacqueline, and today I am talking to Paul of Interpol, New York City's Interpol. Interpol has an album, obviously, I think a lot of you know about, called Turn On the Bright Lights, and they are in Toronto today to play a show at Cool House. They've been on the road for a very long time. Welcome to Toronto. It's not your first time here, right?
No, we were here. We shot a video here, and I believe we played here. I've got a horrible memory for how much. We've done so much touring that I can't remember things.
That leads actually perfectly into my first question, which is about the fact that you've been touring so much. And my understanding is that when you're on the road so much, you guys have felt that it's really hard to write new material. Now, were you just off in May? Have you had a little bit of time off? Or have you had any time off to write new material? Is it not even a priority right now?
It's not that we found it really hard, it's just that we can't write on the road because we write like live together. It's not like one person writing the parts and presenting them to the other guys. So unless we have a space in which we can set everything up and like play with each other, then we can't write. So it's not a matter of it being difficult. It's impossible.
People draw a lot of comparisons to some bands such as Television and Joy Division. I just wanted to know from you personally, who would you say are some of Interpol's direct influences?
The bands that I've considered like impacted me and kind of made me want to like do music, for life. Have never ever been mentioned in relation to like our music, and that's because like my contribution to the band is mixed in with everyone else's contribution. Like we all write the songs, so it's really hard to say. And we certainly never like got into the rehearsal space and said like, okay, we should like be like this band. So I think we all probably channel certain influences in our individual contributions into the band's sound, but because it's like that, like it's this big collaboration, it's impossible to say one particular band that has an influence directly.
I always find that really fascinating because every time I read articles or even interview artists myself, they always say, no, I'm not influenced by that person. I'm really more influenced by this person. It's just kind of funny how certain things are projected on artists. Yeah,
definitely. And I think one thing that people don't necessarily recognize too is the people that I respect the most are the ones that had the biggest impact on me. It's kind of, I've never wanted to try and do something like what they do, because if you hold something that sacred and like if you think someone is such a brilliant genius, it's kind of like you wouldn't even attempt, like I feel like just on an aside, I was just thinking the other day that like I heard the TV on the Radio record for the first time, and they do a cover. Have you heard of that band, TV on the Radio? They're really new and really amazing. They do a cover of Mr. Greaves by the Pixies. And I was just saying to a friend, because it's amazing, it's a cappella, and they just have like, there's like 8 vocal tracks, and they just like reproduce like all the melodies from the song, but just with voices, and it's incredible. And I was saying like the thing about like the Pixies is you can't do the Pixies. You couldn't cover the Pixies and like do it justice, because like they are so who they are. Like the personalities are so unique, and like no one can ever be Frank Black. So the fact that they did find a way to make like this like really legitimately amazing cover of a Pixie song by doing this like totally off the wall thing, like an a cappella version of it, was like I was just saying like it's such a great success because that's a band that you just can't touch. You can't be Frank Black. And so that's sort of what I mean about someone who is a great direct inspiration to you. Like I would never try and sing like Kurt Cobain or like Frank Black, because like you just can't do it.
Personally, I'm a huge fan of the album actually, and it's sort of a. I find it really heartbreaking at some points, especially Untitled, and it's sort of a bit of a soundtrack, I think, for the past year for me. So I'm always amazed that every kind of article I've read of you or listened online to interviews, that you guys are really lighthearted. You're not like these kind of, dark, dreary kind of guys, and you dress great. So it's just kind of interesting how your music can seem so somber, and yet you don't seem that way in person or in any other way.
I have my moments. But I think it's it's art. It's not like a photocopy of people's personalities. It's just sort of I think it's just, you can't really tell too much about a person, I don't think, by what they do artistically. Because it's it can't like encompass their whole personality or represent them like so directly.
New York seems to have this scene happening right now, supposedly, and you guys do appear on the Yes New York compilation and such. Is there a scene that's happening right now in New York? Is it something that's once again projected upon you guys, or are you conscious of being a part of something right now?
It was before 9/11, even.
Well, I guess it would have been before 9/11 because New York City Cops was pulled from like the Strokes disc, right?
Exactly. No, and it was like well before. It was like 9 months before The Enemy did this piece like We Love New York, and that was like the starting point. And they like that was kind of like when they started breaking the Strokes and whatnot. And back then, yeah, it was totally like imposed from the outside because like I don't think any of the bands like knew each other at all. The Yeah Yeah Yeahs, the Liars, the Strokes. Like I don't think Radio 4. I can't really speak for them, but I don't think that they were all like hanging out together. And I had never even heard of the Strokes before they got like hugely famous. I had heard of them once when they gave me a flyer at a club one night, and I remember because like I thought it was a great name, but I made sort of a joke, and like the guy who gave me the flyer kind of looked at me like, "You're such an asshole," and I was just like out having. So I did meet the Strokes a long time before they got famous, but nowadays I think because like we do kind of have a little more contact with the other bands that are sort of considered in the scene. And everyone's like really nice. Like all the people in these bands that I've met are really like nice people. So nowadays I do just feel kind of like, and I think everyone's just kind of like very proud and happy that, for me, because I can respect the other bands because I think they're great. It's really nice to be put into the same, like in the same sentence or whatever with those bands. And I think because there's been so much consistent hype about like the scene that it almost did kind of create something because like the people that are supposedly in it are kind of feeling like, well, everyone says that, there's this scene, so it's that's kind of cool, and I think it's just it's a nice thing, but we certainly were never kind of all living together in a loft somewhere like talking about what we should do with music or whatever. It's not like that kind of scene.